I paid off $85,000 in student loans for my daughter. I worked double shifts for years, living on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, just so she could start her life debt-free. The day I needed $500 for my heart medication, she looked at me without blinking and said, "Mom, you're 78 years old. Why do you want to keep wasting money?" And while I was on the brink of death, she took my house. I am 78, and today I am going to tell you how the daughter for whom I sacrificed my entire life left me to die on the doorstep of my own home. But before we get to that betrayal, I need you to understand everything I gave for her. My name is Eleanor. What an irony, right? Because for a long time, I lost all faith in humanity, in my own blood. Let me take you back 15 years, when Olivia, my only daughter, came running into our small house in the suburbs with a letter in her hands. Her eyes shone with an emotion I hadn't seen in years. "Mom, I got into medical school. I remember I was making a pot roast on the stove. The smell of slow-cooked beef and onions filled the kitchen. I dropped everything and hugged her so tight I could feel her heart beating against my chest. My little girl was going to be a doctor. After being widowed at 51, after cleaning offices for years, after baking pies to sell on weekends, finally, something good was coming into our lives. You did it, sweetheart. I am so proud." What I didn't know was that the acceptance letter came with a price tag, a massive amount in student loans, 4 years of medical school, books, scrubs, equipment, transportation. Olivia sat at the worn wooden table where we had eaten dinner together for so many years. "Mom, it's so much money. Maybe it's not the right time." "Don't talk nonsense," I interrupted her. "We'll find a way. We always do." And so began my second job. Or rather, my third job. From Monday to Friday, I cleaned 3 houses from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I ran to my shift at a diner downtown, where I washed dishes and bussed tables until 11 at night. On weekends, I baked and sold apple and cherry pies at the local farmer's market. I would get up at 4 in the morning to have the dough ready. My hands, they were covered in calluses, burns, and cracks from the bleach and cold water. But every time I saw Olivia studying until late, surrounded by huge anatomy textbooks, I felt every blister was worth it. Do you know how many double shifts I worked? Even I don't know. I lost count after the first year. My life became a routine of survival. Work, pay bills, sleep 4 hours, repeat. I stopped going to the doctor when the chest pains started. "It's just nerves," I told myself. There was no time or money for my ailments. I remember once Olivia found me asleep on the recliner with my diner uniform still on, smelling of grease and onions. It was 3 in the morning. She had just come in. "Mom, this is too much. You don't have to kill yourself like this for me." I caressed her face. "My baby, I've already lived my life. Now it's your turn. I'm not going to let you miss this opportunity." But now, with everything I know, I wonder if in that moment she felt gratitude, or if she was just calculating how much my sacrifice would eventually cost her. For years, I paid every cent of that tuition. $500 here for books, $300 there for clinical gear, $2,000 for a specialized course. When I came up short, I pawned things. First, it was the gold chain my late husband gave me for our anniversary. Then, my mother's silver earrings. I ate macaroni and cheese or canned soup almost every day. White rice with a fried egg if I was lucky. Black coffee with day-old bread the bakery on the corner gave me for free. Sometimes, Martha, my neighbor, would leave a casserole dish on my porch because she had made too much. We both knew it was a lie, but I accepted it with all the dignity I had left. Olivia graduated with honors. I watched her cross that stage in her cap and gown, receiving her degree as a medical doctor. I cried so much I could barely see her. They were tears of pride, relief, and exhaustion. "We did it, Mom. We did it together. Together." That word gave me the strength to keep going. After that came residency and specialization. More costs. By that time, I was 70, and my body was starting to send me the bill for so much abuse. But I couldn't stop. We were so close. Finally, at 73, I made the last payment. $200,000 in total. Every penny earned with the sweat of my wrinkled brow and my wrecked hands. Olivia was now an established cardiologist, working at a private hospital in the city. She had married Mark, an architect with a good family name and a better bank account. They lived in a beautiful house in an upscale gated community. They had 2 children, Leo, 14, and Harper, 12. I was still in my little house in the suburbs, the same house where Olivia grew up, where her dad died of a heart attack when she was 15. 2 small bedrooms, a backyard with my rose bushes, and that kitchen where I could still smell the breakfasts I prepared my whole life. I thought I could finally rest. I thought that Olivia, now successful and debt-free, would help me a little. I didn't expect her to support me, just, call me more often, visit me, ask how I was. But the visits became spaced out. First, it was once a week, then every 2 weeks, then only on holidays, and always in a rush. Sorry, Mom, I have a surgery early tomorrow. Mom, the kids have homework. Mom, Mark and I have an important dinner. I nodded, smiled, prepared their favorite pot roast in the few hours they gifted me. And when they left, I stayed alone in that house that suddenly felt too big, too silent. But I didn't complain, because a good mother asks for nothing in return, or so I believed, until my heart started to fail for real, and I discovered she had already started planning how to get rid of me. But that part comes later. If you want to know how my own daughter betrayed me in the cruelest way you can imagine, stay until the end of this story, because I need someone to know the truth. And if you've ever felt you gave everything for someone who didn't value it, this story is also for you. Subscribe to the channel to keep following real stories that need to be told. I thought I was building her future. I was financing my own destruction. During the first few months after paying off her debts, I felt light for the first time in 15 years, as if I had been carrying a bag of cement on my back for so long, I no longer remembered what it felt like to walk upright. Olivia seemed like the perfect daughter in everyone's eyes, successful, elegant, always saying the right thing at family gatherings. When my cousin Susan asked about her, I puffed out my chest with pride. She's a cardiologist, at the medical center. She sees very important patients. What I didn't tell them was that I hadn't seen her in 2 months. The phone calls were becoming more sporadic, colder. When I called, she always answered with that tone. When someone is busy, and you are an interruption. Mom, I'm with a patient. I'll call you later. But later never came. When we finally saw each other, something had changed in her eyes. She was no longer the girl who hugged me with gratitude. She was a rushed woman, checking her watch every 5 minutes, sighing when I told her about the rose bushes or about Martha next door. Mom, you shouldn't be working so hard anymore. At your age, you've done enough. That phrase. The first time I heard it, it filled me with tenderness. I thought she worried about me, that she finally wanted to give something back for everything I gave. How naive I was. One Sunday, 3 months after the last debt payment, Olivia came to visit me with Mark and the kids. It was rare for them to all come together. I prepared roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and green beans. I got up at 5 in the morning so everything would be perfect. Leo and Harper barely hugged me before taking out their phones and sitting in the living room. Mark was polite, as always, but distant. Olivia inspected the house with a look I couldn't decipher at that moment. Mom, this house is getting too big for you alone. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands were shaking a little. Lately, they shook often. It's my home, honey. You grew up here. Here. Yes, I know. She interrupted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. But think about it. 2 floors, stairs, that yard that needs maintenance. It's a lot of work for a woman your age. Mark coughed uncomfortably. Olivia shot him a quick look I couldn't interpret. Besides, Mom, with all the effort you made for me, it's time for you to rest, to live calmly, without worries. There was that phrase again. You've done enough. As if my shelf life had come to an end. As if I had served my purpose and was now surplus. But I still didn't see the trap. That night, after they left leaving the kitchen full of dirty dishes that I washed alone, I sat in the recliner in the living room. The same chair where I rocked Olivia when she was a baby, where I read her stories, where I comforted her when her dad died. Something heavy settled in my chest. It wasn't just exhaustion. It was a sensation I didn't want to name yet. In the following weeks, Olivia started visiting me more frequently, but not to spend time with me. She came with excuses. Mom, let me check your documents. You need to have everything in order. Mom, where do you keep the deed to the house? It should be in a safe place. Mom, you should get a full medical checkup. I'll pay for it. That last offer surprised me. It was the first time in years she offered to pay for something. I accepted, because I really felt bad. The chest pains had become more frequent. I got tired going up the stairs. Sometimes I was short of breath just hanging out the laundry. It's just accumulated stress, Mom. Years of overworking, she told me while driving her new SUV toward the hospital. But let's check you properly just to be sure. They ran tests I never could have afforded on my own. EKGs, blood work, X-rays. Olivia knew all the doctors. They treated her with deference, with respect. Dr. Sterling, so good to see you here. I felt proud again. That was my daughter, the girl I sacrificed everything for. A week later, she called me to give me the results. Her voice sounded strange, controlled. Mom, I need you to come to my office. We have to talk about your heart. The diagnosis was like a bucket of ice water. Early-stage heart failure. Nothing critical yet, but I needed medication, periodic checkups, care. And how much does the treatment cost? I asked, feeling the floor move under my feet. Olivia closed the results folder. She leaned back at her desk, that mahogany desk with her name engraved on a gold plaque. Dr. Olivia Sterling, cardiologist. Mom, don't worry about that now. The important thing is that you take care of yourself. But I need to know, daughter. I still work at Mrs. Johnson's house, and that's exactly why. Mom, you shouldn't be working anymore. Look at yourself. Your body is sending you the bill. She was right. But I also had to eat. I had to pay for electricity, water, gas. My Social Security check barely covered the basics. There are cheaper medications, she said after a long silence. Not as effective as the ones you really need, but they could help a little. I felt something break inside me. Something small, like a dry twig. And the others? The ones I really need? Olivia sighed. That sigh that was becoming familiar to me. The sigh of someone who has more important things to do. They are expensive, Mom. Almost $600 a month, and you would have to take them for the rest of your life. The rest of my life. Which, according to my sick heart, might not be that long. Look, she continued, softening her voice. What you need is to reduce stress. Stop working. Simplify your life. That big house requires a lot of maintenance, many expenses. Have you thought about moving to something smaller? More manageable? There it was again. The house. Olivia, that is my house. Your dad's house. Where you? Yes, Mom, I know. But Dad is gone, and you are alone. It makes no sense for you to cling to a place that is consuming you. I stayed silent, because maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a stubborn old woman clinging to the past. Think about it, she said, and patted my hand. A pat, like you give to a dog. For now, take these basic meds. We'll talk about the full treatment later. I left that office with a prescription for second-rate medicine and a new weight in my chest that had nothing to do with my sick heart. On the bus ride back home, surrounded by strangers, I allowed myself to think the unthinkable. My daughter didn't want to help me. My daughter wanted. What? What was it she really wanted? I arrived home as the sun was setting. The rose bushes cast long shadows over the yard. I touched the walls of my kitchen, the same walls that saw Olivia grow, that held echoes of laughter and tears and lullabies. Maybe it's me, I said aloud. Maybe I'm selfish for wanting to stay here, but deep down, in that place where we keep the truths we don't want to see, I already knew something wasn't right. I just didn't imagine how far her betrayal would go yet, because the worst hadn't arrived yet. My heart was failing, but hers was already dead. 2 months after that diagnosis, my body started sending me the full bill. It wasn't just occasional pains anymore. Now I woke up in the middle of the night with my chest tight, as if someone were sitting on me. My legs swelled so much I could barely put on my shoes. One night I couldn't take it anymore. It was 3 a.m. when the pain became unbearable. I called Olivia, my hands shaking. Mom, what is it? Her voice sounded irritated, sleepy. Sweetie, I can't breathe well. My chest, A silence. Then a long sigh. Did you take your pills? Yes, but then it's anxiety, Mom. Breathe deeply. You can't be calling me at this hour for every discomfort. I have a surgery at 7 in the morning. And she hung up. I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in hand, feeling like I was drowning. Not from a lack of air, but from something much worse. The next morning, Martha found me passed out in the yard. She was the one who called the ambulance. She was the one who went with me to the county hospital. Not Olivia. When my daughter finally arrived at the hospital, 6 hours later, she wore that expression I knew well. Annoyance disguised as concern. Mom, I told you it was nerves. Look at all the fuss you caused. The doctor who attended me was clear. My heart failure had advanced. I needed the full treatment. $600 a month in medication, checkups every 2 weeks, immediate lifestyle changes, and above all, the doctor added, she needs to avoid stress. No heavy work, 0 worries. Olivia nodded like the professional doctor she was. But when we were alone, her mask slipped a little. Mom, this is getting out of control. You can't pay for that treatment. I have my own expenses, the kids, the mortgage. I'm not asking you for anything, I whispered. My voice came out weaker than I wanted. I know. But you can't go on like this either. Working, stressing out, living alone in that huge house that requires constant maintenance. There it was again. The house. I've been thinking, she continued, pulling her chair closer. And I think the time has come to make smart decisions. For your own good. She took some papers out of her purse, official papers she had prepared. As if she had been waiting for this moment. This is a power of attorney, something temporary, just so I can help you manage your affairs if something happens to you. Your accounts, your documents, the house. My heart skipped a beat. And this time it wasn't from the illness. I don't understand. Honey, why do you need that? Because you need to be realistic, Mom. You are 78 and have a heart that doesn't respond well anymore. If something happens to you, who is going to be able to act fast? Think of the kids, of your inheritance. Everything must be in order. She used my grandkids, Leo and Harper. The same kids who barely looked at me when they visited, but who now appeared in her speech as urgent reasons to sign. Besides, she lowered her voice more, looking around as if someone could hear us. If you sell the house and move to a smaller, more manageable place, you could use that money for your treatment to live your last years in peace. Last years, she said it just like that, without a filter. I don't want to sell my house, Olivia. I'm not saying you sell it now. Just that we have everything prepared, just in case. Something in her tone. Something calculated, rehearsed. But I was tired, scared. I had just fainted. My heart was a ticking time bomb. It's just for security, Mom. So I can help you if you can't make decisions. You trust me, right? That question was the perfect trap. How do you say no to the daughter you sacrificed everything for? How do you admit you were starting to doubt her? I signed. With a trembling hand, with a lump in my throat, I signed that damn paper. Olivia smiled. A smile that should have warned me of everything. She put the documents in her purse with quick, efficient movements. Perfect. Now rest. I'll take care of everything. That night, alone in my hospital bed, with the sound of machines beeping around me, I remembered something I had forgotten, or that I had wanted to forget. 2 weeks before, when Olivia was checking my important documents, she found my wedding ring. That white gold ring with a small diamond my husband put on me more than 50 years ago. Mom, do you still wear this? It's too heavy for your swollen fingers. She took it between her fingers, evaluating it like someone evaluating merchandise. You should keep it in a safe place. Or better yet, let's sell it. You could get about $800. It would help with your expenses. I took it off that afternoon. I told her yes, because I needed money for the upcoming consultation. Because she convinced me it was logical. I watched her take it away. The last physical piece of my marriage, of my youth, of when someone loved me without asking for anything in return. Don't worry, Mom. I'll get you the best price. I never saw that money. When I asked her weeks later, she told me she had used it to pay some urgent expenses of mine she had covered. She never specified which ones. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I finally understood what was happening. My daughter wasn't taking care of me. She was stripping me. Slowly, methodically, with the precision of a surgeon who knows exactly where to cut, and I had just given her the legal scalpel to finish the job. She convinced me it was for my own good, while planning to keep everything. I left the hospital a week later with a bag full of cheap medications and a signed paper that took away control of my own life. Although I didn't know it yet, Olivia became more present, but not in the way a mother would wish. She came to check things, to move papers, to take photos of the corners of my house with her phone. Just documenting the current condition, Mom. For insurance. What insurance? She never explained. One afternoon she arrived with Mark and a man she introduced as a property appraiser. She didn't ask me if they could come in. They simply did. The man walked through my house with a tablet, taking notes, measuring walls, evaluating every corner, as if I weren't there, as if it weren't mine anymore. Mom, it's just to get an idea of the value, just in case. Just in case what? But I didn't ask anymore, because every time I did, Olivia sighed with that tiredness that made me feel like a burden. The appraiser left leaving a folder. Olivia put it away quickly, but I managed to see the number. $350,000. That night I couldn't sleep. My little house was worth that much. The place where I raised my daughter alone, where I survived my husband's death, where every wall held priceless memories. On Sundays, Olivia started bringing Leo and Harper more frequently. But something had changed in how they treated me. Grandma, is it true you're moving soon? Harper asked while playing on her phone, without even looking at me. Moving? No, honey. Who told you that? Mom said you can't take care of yourself anymore, that you're going to a place where there are nurses. I felt the floor open up beneath me. I looked at Olivia, who was making coffee in my kitchen as if nothing happened. Daughter, what is she talking about? Oh, Mom, the kids confuse things. I just mentioned that there are very nice assisted living residences, just in case you ever need them. But Harper hadn't confused anything. Her words were too specific. Leo didn't even participate in the conversation. He was buried in his video game. These were my grandkids, the children for whom I was supposedly organizing my inheritance. That afternoon, after they left, I called my cousin Susan. I needed to talk to someone who really knew me. Eleanor, are you okay? You sound strange. I told her everything. The papers, the appraiser, the constant insinuations about moving. Susan kept a long silence. Cousin, I don't like this at all. Olivia is planning something. Don't say that. She's my daughter. She's just worried about me. Worried? A worried daughter helps you with your medicine. She doesn't pressure you to sign papers. Be very careful, Eleanor. Very careful. But I still didn't want to see. Because accepting the truth meant accepting that I had sacrificed 15 years of my life for someone who was only waiting for me to die to keep the little I had. The next week, Olivia arrived with a new folder. She was smiling, but it was that professional smile she used with her patients. Mom, I found the perfect solution. Look, they were brochures for nursing homes, places with nice names. Golden Sunset, Peace Gardens, Villa Hope. This one is really good. It has nurses 24 hours a day, meals included, recreational activities, and the best part, it costs only $4,000 a month. With what we'd get from selling the house, you could pay for full years in advance and have plenty left for your medical treatment. Every word was like a stab wound. I'm not going to sell my house, Olivia. Her smile hardened. Mom, be realistic. You're 78, with a failing heart. How much longer do you think you can take care of this place? What happens if you fall on the stairs and no one finds you? She was using my fear, my age, my illness, everything that made me vulnerable. In a nursing home, I would be safe, cared for. I could sleep peacefully knowing you're okay, but it wasn't for me. It was never for me. Think about it, she said, leaving the brochures on my table. You don't have to decide today, but you can't keep denying reality either. When I closed the door behind her, I allowed myself to cry everything I had held back, everything I didn't want to admit. My daughter was pushing me out of my own house, slowly, methodically, with arguments that sounded reasonable to anyone listening. It's for your own good, Mom. But when does someone's good imply stripping them of everything they love? I sat in my recliner, the same one where I rocked her as a baby, where I taught her to read, where we cried together when her dad died. And in that moment, something inside me started to change. Fear began to transform into something different, something I hadn't felt in years. Anger. Because maybe my heart was failing, but my dignity was still beating strong. She turned me into a burden, in front of everyone who knew me. My sister Sarah's birthday was the day everything became public. She was turning 75 and organized a family cookout at her house in the suburbs. The whole family would be there, cousins, nephews, even some close neighbors. Olivia insisted on picking me up. "You can't go alone on the bus. Mom, what if you get dizzy?" I should have seen the trap. We arrived late. Everyone was already seated around the picnic tables in the backyard. The smell of barbecue and grilled corn filled the air. Music played in the background. It was a happy party. Until Olivia opened her mouth. "Sorry for the delay. Mom took a long time to get ready. You know how she is. At her age, everything takes triple the time." Uncomfortable laughter. I felt the heat rise to my face. I sat next to my cousin Susan, who squeezed my hand under the table. During the meal, I tried to participate in conversations, to laugh, to be myself. But Olivia watched me like a hawk. When I told a story about Martha, she interrupted me. "Mom, you already told that story 3 times. Remember? It wasn't true." I had never told it there, but everyone looked at me with that expression, that mix of pity and discomfort people put on when they think you're losing your mind. "Oh, sorry," I murmured, lowering my eyes to my plate. Later, my niece Gabriella asked about my house, about my rose bushes. Before I could answer, Olivia intervened. "Oh, Gabby, let's not ask too much about that. Mom gets sentimental. She's in a difficult process of accepting that she has to let certain things go." Susan dropped her fork with force. "Let go of what things, Olivia?" "Well, the house is huge for her alone. We're already talking about more manageable options, places where she can be cared for, accompanied." Silence fell heavy on the table. Everyone looked at me now, as if I were a child incapable of making her own decisions. "Eleanor, is that true?" Sarah asked, with genuine concern. I opened my mouth to speak, but Olivia was faster. "Mom is still in denial. It's normal. Seniors cling to their routines even if they are dangerous for them. I see it all the time as a doctor." Doctor. She used her title as a weapon, as unquestionable authority. Her heart is very delicate. "She can't be alone, climbing stairs, carrying things. One slip and..." She snapped her fingers. "That's why I'm looking for the best for her." My sister Sarah nodded, convinced. "It's so good that you worry so much about your mom, Olivia. Not all daughters are like that." I felt nauseous. I wanted to scream that it was all a lie, that she wasn't taking care of me, that she was stripping me, but who would believe me? There was the successful doctor, worried about her poor, sick, and stubborn mother. And there was I, the senile old woman who didn't accept reality. Mark, sitting at the other end of the table, didn't participate in the conversation. He looked at his beer with an uncomfortable expression. When our eyes met, I saw something there. Guilt, maybe. Or perhaps just discomfort. After eating, while the women cleaned up the kitchen, I heard Olivia talking to my cousins in the hallway. It's hard to see her like this. A few days ago, she called me at 3 a.m. for a pain that turned out to be gas. She left the stove on all night again. She has moments of lucidity, but also confusion. Lies. All lies. But said with such conviction that even I doubted my own memory for a second. "Poor thing," I heard someone say. "And poor you, Olivia. What a burden." Burden. That word pierced me. Susan found me crying in the bathroom. She hugged me tight without saying anything, because there were no words for this. "She is destroying you in front of everyone," she whispered finally. "She is building a narrative so that when she keeps your house, everyone thinks she did the right thing." She was right. Olivia was planting the story. Senile mother, sacrificing daughter. When the time came to take everything from me, no one would question anything. Everyone would say, "Thank goodness Olivia was there to take care of her." On the way back home, Olivia drove humming, happy, satisfied with her performance. "The party was nice, right, Mom?" I didn't answer. I looked out the window at the streets of the city that saw me born, the city where I built my life, where I buried my husband, where I raised this woman alone, who now treated me like an obstacle. Mom, don't be mad. I'm just being realistic. Someone has to be. When we arrived at my house, I got out of the car without saying goodbye. I heard her voice behind me. Think about what we talked about. Time is running out, Mom. Your heart isn't going to wait until you're ready. I closed the door. I leaned against it, and for the first time in my life, I felt real fear of my own daughter. Because she wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't pretending. The public humiliation had been her way of telling me, I don't care what you think anymore. I'm going to do what I want, and everyone is going to applaud me. But she didn't know something. That women of my generation learn to survive worse things than a daughter's betrayal, and that when you have nothing left to lose, you become dangerous. While I was agonizing in the hospital, she was changing the locks. Everything happened one night in October. I remember the exact date, October 17th, because it was the day I almost died. And the day I lost my home. That afternoon I felt strange. A crushing weight in my chest that didn't go away with the pills, cold sweat, dizziness. I called Olivia 3 times. She didn't answer. At 9 at night, the pain became unbearable. I called Martha, with the last breath I had left. Eleanor, oh my God, don't move. I'm calling the ambulance. The next thing I remember are bright lights, distant voices, the sharp sound of a siren, and darkness. I woke up 3 days later in intensive care. Tubes everywhere, the constant beeping of machines. A nurse checking my vitals. Relax, ma'am. You had a severe heart attack. You're stable now, but it was very serious. Olivia arrived on the 4th day. Not the 1st or the 2nd, the 4th. She wore sunglasses even though we were indoors. She sat next to my bed with that expression I already knew, rehearsed concern. Mom, you gave us a terrible scare. Where were you? My voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. I was at a medical conference in Miami. I came as soon as I could. Lie. Martha told me later that she had called her the same night of my heart attack. Olivia chose not to come. The following days were a haze of pain, medication, and loneliness. Mark came once, uncomfortable, with flowers he left on the table without saying much. The kids never appeared. Only Martha came daily. She brought me soup, combed my hair, held my hand. Her daughter is a doctor and I, who barely finished high school, am the one taking care of her. What irony. Right, Eleanor? Olivia appeared from time to time, always in a rush, always checking her phone, always with that air of making a great sacrifice. I was hospitalized for 12 days. 12 days between life and death. 12 days in which, as I found out later, Olivia was very busy. The day I was discharged, Martha was the one who picked me up. Olivia had an urgent surgery. Mark offered his car, but she needed it. We arrived at my house at sunset. The rose bushes looked beautiful with the golden light of the sun. The neighbors' hydrangeas peeked over the fence. Everything looked the same, until I tried to open the door. The key didn't fit. I tried again. Nothing. Martha, something is wrong. She tried too. The lock had been changed. A cold feeling ran through my body that had nothing to do with the weather. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I knocked on the door. Silence. This can't be happening, I murmured, feeling my legs fail. I dialed Olivia. She answered on the 4th ring. Mom? What is it? I can't get into my house. The lock. Oh, yes. I had them changed. For security. While you were in the hospital, I couldn't leave the house vulnerable. And my keys? A silence. Too long. I have them. But Mom, we need to talk. You can't live alone anymore. The heart attack was a clear warning. Olivia, open the door for me. It is my house. Mom, calm down. It's not good for you to get upset. Look, I already spoke with a lawyer. With the power of attorney you signed, I have authority to make decisions about the property if your health is at risk. And clearly, it is. The world stopped. Martha held me up because I was literally falling. What did you do? What I had to do months ago. I transferred the house to my name. It's legal, Mom. Everything is in order. I did what was best for you. I couldn't breathe. My chest burned again. I found you a perfect place. A residence in the city. Clean, safe, with nurses. The first month is already paid. You can move in tomorrow. Olivia, please. This is not negotiable, Mom. You almost died. Do you want me to find you stiff on the floor of your house in 3 days next time? Because that's what's going to happen. Every word was a slap in the face. I'll pick you up tomorrow at 10 to take you to see your new home. Pack only what is necessary. Clothes, personal documents. I'll handle the rest. Olivia, you can't do this to me. It's already done, Mom. And deep down, when your tantrum passes, you'll thank me. And she hung up. I stayed there, standing in front of the door of my own house. The house I paid for with 40 years of work. The house where I buried my youth, my dreams, my marriage. Martha was crying beside me. This can't be legal. It can't be. But it was. Because I signed. Because I trusted. Because I was a fool who believed that a mother's love was reciprocated. That night I slept on Martha's couch. She lent me pajamas, made me tea, let me cry on her shoulder until I had no tears left. Tomorrow we go to a lawyer, she told me. This isn't staying like this. But I knew the truth. Olivia was a doctor, respected, with resources. I was a sick old woman who had signed papers without reading well. Who would believe me? My daughter had kicked me out of my own house while I lay dying in a hospital. And the worst part? She did it with total coldness, as if I were already dead. They locked me up like garbage. But my mind was never clearer. The New Dawn residence had nothing new or dawning about it. It was a gray 3-story building in a forgotten neighborhood, with rusty bars and a smell of cheap disinfectant that failed to hide other, worse smells. Olivia left me at the entrance with 2 suitcases. It's temporary, Mom, until you stabilize. Lie number 1000. They assigned me a room on the 2nd floor, 12 square feet, shared with another elderly woman named Gladys, who wouldn't stop praying the rosary aloud day and night. A hard bed, a tiny closet, a window overlooking the parking lot of a strip mall. That was it. The first days were a silent hell. I spent my time sitting on the edge of my bed, staring at the hospital green walls, feeling my soul fade away little by little. The food was horrible. Watery broth, chicken tough as shoe leather, stale bread. Nothing to do with my pot roasts, with my fresh coffee, with Martha's casseroles. Olivia came every 2 weeks, 15 minutes exactly, never more, never less. She checked that I was taking my meds, signed papers, and left with a smile of duty accomplished. See, Mom? Here you are safe, cared for. Isn't it better than being alone in that huge house? I didn't answer. I no longer had the strength to fight. But then I met Arthur. He was an 82-year-old man, thin, with a perfectly trimmed white mustache and blue eyes that still shone with intelligence. He used an elegant wooden cane and always dressed in a button-down shirt, even if it was just to go down to the dining room. I met him one afternoon in the small back garden of the residence. I was sitting on a bench, watching the hours pass senselessly. "May I?" he asked, pointing to the space next to me. I nodded without much enthusiasm. He sat with a sigh, took out a handkerchief, and cleaned his glasses. "I detest this place," he said without preamble. "But I suppose you do too." Something in his tone made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Is it that obvious? Ma'am, you have the face of someone whose life was stolen. I know because I have the same face." And so began our friendship. Arthur had been a labor lawyer for 40 years. His wife died 5 years ago. His only son, a successful engineer in Texas, put him in the residence for his own good and kept his condo downtown. He sold it for $500,000. He gives me $200 a month for my expenses. Do you know how much this place costs? $4,000. He pays the rest and keeps everything that's left over. It was my story, with other names, other numbers, but the same script. Over the next few weeks, Arthur became my confidant. I told him everything. The 15 years of sacrifice, the loans paid, the power of attorney, my stolen house. He listened with lawyerly attention, taking mental notes. "Eleanor, what they did to you is financial abuse, possibly fraud. That power of attorney you signed was temporary and specific. It didn't give her the right to transfer properties, but I signed. You signed under duress while you were sick and vulnerable. That can be fought." For the first time in months, I felt something resembling hope. I also met Chloe, a 35-year-old nurse who worked the night shift. She was the only employee who treated us like people and not furniture. One early morning, she found me crying in the hallway. I couldn't sleep. Gladys's snoring and the weight of my loss were suffocating me. "Mrs. Eleanor, what's wrong?" I told her everything. Between tears and contained rage, I told her everything. Chloe squeezed my hands. "My grandmother went through something similar. My uncle took her land in the country. She died of sadness 6 months later. Don't let that happen to you. But what can I do? I don't have money for lawyers. I don't have strength. You have right on your side. And you have witnesses. I've seen you. You are lucid, clear. If your daughter says you're senile, it's a lie, and that can be proven." Arthur, Chloe, and I started meeting in secret. In the garden, at night, when the others slept. "We need to document everything," Arthur said. "Every visit from your daughter, every word she says. And we need to find witnesses who confirm the state of your house, the real value, the circumstances of the transfer. I know lawyers," he added. "Good ones, the kind who fight lost causes. But we need to build a solid case." For the first time in months, my brain started working again. I wasn't the defeated old woman Olivia wanted me to be. I was Eleanor, the woman who survived her husband's death, who raised a daughter alone, who worked triple shifts without breaking. And if I could handle all that, I could handle this. "What do I need to do?" I asked, with a voice I hadn't heard in a long time. A firm voice. Arthur smiled. "First, stop crying and start documenting. Second, contact people who can testify in your favor. Third," he paused dramatically, "make your daughter get so confident she makes a mistake." Chloe took out her phone. "And I can record. When she comes, when she talks, everything you need." Something changed in me that night. The pain transformed into determination, sadness into strategy. Olivia had taken my house, but not my dignity, and certainly not my ability to fight. I stopped crying, and I started documenting every lie. Arthur got me a small notebook. "You're going to write everything down here. Dates, conversations, broken promises, everything." I became a detective of my own life. First mission: get copies of the documents I signed. Arthur had a contact in public records who, for $50, got us copies of the power of attorney and the property transfer. When we read them, Arthur hit the table with contained fury. I knew it. This power was temporary, 6 months maximum, and only for basic medical and banking management. It never gave her authority to transfer property. This is pure fraud. So I can get my house back? If we prove there was coercion, breach of trust, and that you were vulnerable, yes, but we need more than this. Chloe turned out to be an invaluable ally. When Olivia came to visit me, she found reasons to be organizing medications, checking vitals, always with her phone in her pocket, recording. In one of those visits, Olivia complained to the residence director. "My mother needs more sedatives. She gets anxious, combative. She doesn't want to accept her reality." Chloe recorded it all, including the part where Olivia added, "The less lucid she is, the better for everyone." Those words destroyed me, but they also gave me ammunition. Arthur taught me something important. The most dangerous enemy is the one who gets overconfident. Olivia thinks she already won. That will be her downfall. My cousin Susan was the next key piece. I called her from the payphone in the hallway. "Cousin, I need your help, but it has to be secret." Susan came to see me a week later. She pretended to be a new resident visiting the facilities. We sat in the garden like two strangers. I gave her specific instructions. Talk to the neighbors of my old house, to Martha especially. Get testimonies of how I lived, of my mental state, of how Olivia pressured me. And there's something else, I added. I need you to go to the notary where the transfer was made. Ask who was present, what documents Olivia presented, if I was there. Susan squeezed my hand. "We're going to get your house back, cousin. I swear." 2 weeks later, Susan returned with information that changed everything. Martha gave a heartbreaking testimony. How she found me passed out, how Olivia took days to come to the hospital, how she saw men changing the locks while I lay dying. Mr. Roberts, my neighbor of a lifetime, confirmed that I was perfectly lucid always, that I took care of my house, paid my bills, lived independently, but most importantly, Susan spoke with the notary's office. Eleanor, your daughter presented the power of attorney and a fake medical certificate that said you were in a state of advanced dementia and could not make decisions. You were never present at the transfer. My blood boiled. A fake medical certificate. She, being a doctor, had falsified documents. That is a serious crime, Arthur said when I told him. With this and the recordings, we have a solid case. But we needed one more thing, for Olivia to sink herself with her own words. Arthur designed a plan. You are going to ask her to come. You are going to tell her that you are ready to sign more papers, that you accept everything. You are going to make her feel safe, and then you are going to ask her specific questions while Chloe records. It was risky, but it was our only chance. I called Olivia. I faked a weak, defeated voice. Daughter, I need to see you. I want to settle some pending papers. About the house? I heard her smile on the other end of the phone. Of course, Mom. I'm coming on Saturday. I'm glad you're finally being reasonable. That Saturday, I set the perfect stage. I asked the director to let us use the private visiting room. My daughter and I need privacy for legal matters. Chloe hid her phone behind a vase in recording mode. When Olivia arrived, she brought a new folder. More papers for me to sign, surely. Mom, you look better. The rest is doing you good. I swallowed my anger. I smiled like the foolish old woman she believed I was. Daughter, I've been thinking a lot. About the house, about everything. I'm glad you came to your senses. I just have some doubts. The house was worth $350,000, right? More or less. But with the repairs it needed, I sold it for $280,000. Lie. Arthur found out she hadn't sold it. It was in her name, waiting for the perfect moment. And where is that money? Olivia sighed with annoyance. Mom, it's invested. For your future. For when you need more care. Can I see it? The investment papers? Her face changed. You don't need to see anything. I handle everything. Is that what I gave you the power for, remember? Yes. But that power was temporary. For medical emergencies, it was for whatever I considered necessary. Her voice hardened. Mom, we're not going to start with this again. It's just that I don't understand, honey. I worked 15 years to pay for your degree. Why do I feel like you're charging me for every dollar I invested in you? The silence was heavy. Olivia left the folder on the table. Do you want the truth, Mom? I nodded, feeling my heart race. And then she unleashed everything I needed to destroy her. I set a stage, and she fell like the ambitious woman she always was. Olivia leaned back in the chair, crossed her legs, and looked at me with a coldness I will never forget. Do you want the truth? Fine. It's time you were realistic. I kept my composure. Behind the vase, Chloe's phone was still recording. Mom, you already served your function. You paid for my career. That was the only thing I really needed from you. It was your obligation as a mother, wasn't it? To give me the tools to succeed. Every word was a knife. The house should have always been mine. I'm an only child. Eventually, it was going to be mine. I just accelerated the process. But you left me with nothing. My voice trembled. I didn't have to fake it. I left you with a roof, food, and medical care. What else do you need at your age? Why waste money on an old woman who has no future? There it was. She had said it. With those exact words. Besides, let's be honest. You already lived your life. You raised your daughter. You got married. You worked. That's it. Now it's my turn to enjoy what corresponds to me. And my last years? My memories in that house? Olivia let out a dry laugh. Oh, Mom, memories are in your head, not in four walls. Get over it. I took a deep breath. Arthur had prepared me for this. Push her more. Make her spill everything. And if I hadn't signed that power, what would you have done? Her smile twisted. I would have found a way. A dementia certificate isn't hard to get when you know doctors. A signature here, another there. Mom, I'm a doctor. I know how the system works. She had just confessed to falsifying documents. But you made things easy for me by signing. You were always so trusting, so naive. She leaned forward. Look, I'm going to tell you something I never told you. Those 15 years you worked like a donkey for me, I never asked you to. It was your decision to sacrifice yourself. I just accepted the gift. It was your education, your future, and I thanked you by being successful. But I don't owe you my entire life for that. I'm not going to be your pension or your company because you decided to invest in me. Tears ran down my cheeks, but they weren't of sadness. They were of contained rage. The kids, Leo and Harper, what did you tell them about me? The truth. That you're old, that your mind is failing, that it's better for you to be where they take care of you. They understand. They don't need a senile grandmother in their lives. Senile? Olivia, I am perfectly fine. Oh, really? She laughed cruelly. Then why are you locked up here? Why did you sign everything I put in front of you? Why does no one in the family defend you? She stood up. She took her purse. Because everyone knows I did the right thing. Poor Olivia carrying the burden of her sick mother. What sacrifice, what dedication. No one questions anything. She walked toward the door, but stopped. Oh, and about the money from the house. It's not invested for you. I used it as a down payment for a condo on the beach, in Miami. Mark and I needed a place to vacation. You don't need vacations anymore, Mom. You just need a place to die in peace. She opened the door. See you in 2 weeks. Or maybe 3. I have a very tight schedule. And she left. I stayed seated, trembling. But not from fear, from power. Chloe came running in 2 minutes later. I have it all. Every word. Mrs. Eleanor. Arthur appeared behind her. He had been listening from the hallway. It's enough. With this, we bury her. Susan was also there. She had come for moral support. She was crying with indignation. That wretched woman. How can someone be so cruel to her own mother? That night, in my room shared with Gladys and her infinite rosaries, I listened to the full recording. Every poisonous word, every arrogant confession. Olivia had fallen into the perfect trap. Her arrogance had blinded her so much she didn't see the blow coming. Arthur brought his contact. Mr. Sterling, a 60-year-old lawyer, gray-haired, with a bulldog face and a reputation for never losing cases of financial abuse. He listened to the recording in silence. When it finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. Mrs. Eleanor, this is pure gold. Confession of fraud, falsification of medical documents, aggravated financial abuse, dispossession. Your daughter is not only going to lose the case, she could face criminal charges. Criminal? She's a doctor. Falsifying medical certificates is a serious crime. She can lose her medical license, her career. I felt a small flash of doubt. She was my daughter, after all. But I remembered her words. An old woman who has no future. How long will it take? I asked. With this proof, the testimonies, and the documentation we already gathered, we can file the lawsuit this week. The normal legal process would take months, but with such compelling evidence, I can ask for immediate precautionary measures. What does that mean? That we can freeze the house, prevent her from selling or mortgaging it while the case is resolved, and with luck, have a sentence in 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months. It seemed like an eternity, but after what had happened, I could wait. Let's do it, I said with a firmness I hadn't felt in years. Arthur smiled. There is the Eleanor I knew, the one who doesn't give up. We signed the papers that same afternoon. The lawsuit was filed the following Monday, and I prepared for war, because Olivia didn't know who she had messed with. She thought she had destroyed a weak old woman, but she woke up a lioness. Justice didn't fall from the sky. I built it with my own trembling hands. The legal notification reached Olivia's hands on a Tuesday morning. She was at her clinic when the process server knocked on her door. I knew because she called me 30 minutes later, furious as I had never heard her. What the hell did you do, Mom? Her voice trembled with rage. I kept calm. Arthur had trained me for this moment. Recovering what is mine. Olivia, do you have any idea what you just did? Of the ridicule you're going to put me through? I am a respected professional. You are making me look like a thief. You are a thief, and now everyone is going to know. Dead silence on the other end. You're going to regret this. I'm going to prove you're demented, that you were manipulated, that I have recordings, Olivia, of everything you said, of how you confessed you forged documents, of how you called me an old woman with no future. I heard her breathe heavily. Then she hung up. Mr. Sterling had done an impeccable job, The lawsuit included dispossession, fraud, aggravated financial abuse, forgery of documents, and elder abuse. The precautionary measures worked. The house was frozen. Olivia couldn't sell it, rent it, or mortgage it until the case was resolved. But the best part came later. Mark called me 2 days after the notification. His voice sounded tired, ashamed. "Mrs. Eleanor, I need to talk to you. Alone." We met at a coffee shop near the residence. Mark had deep circles under his eyes, messy hair. He wasn't the neat man I knew. "I didn't know anything," he said before sitting down. "I swear on my children I didn't know how she had treated you. The house, the fake documents, nothing. How is that possible? You live with her." Olivia hid everything from me. She told me you had signed voluntarily, that you were happy in the residence. I wanted to believe her. He lowered his gaze. But when the lawsuit came and I read the accusations, I confronted her. And what did she say? She went crazy. She screamed that you were ungrateful, that after everything she did for you, this is how you paid her back. I told her, "What did you do for her? She paid for your entire degree." Mark took an envelope out of his briefcase. "I found this in her study. Documents she planned to use in her defense. The fake medical certificate she presented to the notary. Emails where she was pricing the condo in Miami using the money from your house. Everything." He handed me the envelope. My hands trembled as I opened it. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I have a mother too. And if someone did to her what Olivia did to you, I would want them to pay. Besides," he paused for a long time, "Leo and Harper found out everything. They heard the recording presented in the lawsuit. And how are they? Devastated. Harper won't speak to her mom. Leo is in therapy. It broke their hearts to know their grandmother needed them. And they believed the lies. Tears came without warning. They aren't to blame. I know. That's why I want you to know they will testify in your favor if necessary. And I will too." Mark became a key witness. He, who had lived closely through Olivia's transformation into a cold and calculating woman. The trial was set for mid-December, 3 months since we filed the lawsuit. The courtroom was full. Olivia arrived with her lawyer, a guy in an expensive suit who looked more like a salesman than a litigator. She wore dark glasses, as if she were a victim of something. I arrived with Arthur on one side, Chloe on the other, and Susan behind, my little army. The judge was a man of about 60, serious-looking. He listened first to Olivia's defense. Her lawyer tried to paint me as a senile old woman, manipulated by strangers who wanted to keep my money, that Olivia had acted out of love, protecting my assets. Then it was our turn. Mr. Sterling played the recordings. In that silent room, Olivia's voice resonated like thunder. "You already served your function. It was your obligation as a mother. I'm not going to waste money on an old woman who has no future." I saw Olivia sink into her chair, how her lawyer closed his eyes, resigned. Then came the testimonies. Martha cried, telling how she found me passed out. Mr. Roberts confirmed my mental clarity. Susan narrated the systematic manipulations. But the final blow was Mark. He presented the documents Olivia was hiding. The fake medical certificate with the forged signature of a colleague. The emails about the condo in Miami. Everything. "My wife didn't act out of love," Mark said with a firm voice. "She acted out of ambition. And the worst part is, she destroyed the only person who really loved her unconditionally." Olivia tried to speak. She stammered something about misunderstandings, about bad interpretations. The judge raised his hand. "Enough." Harper and Leo were in the room. Harper was crying silently. Leo looked at me with a mixture of shame and sadness. After 2 hours of presenting evidence, the judge retired to deliberate. He returned 30 minutes later. "I have carefully reviewed all the evidence presented, the recordings, the testimonies, the documents, and my verdict is clear." I felt my heart jumping out of my chest. The house is returned to its legitimate owner, Mrs. Eleanor Garcia. Furthermore, the defendant must pay compensation for emotional damages of $25,000, plus the medical expenses. Mrs. Eleanor had to cover a loan during this period. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Additionally, I have ordered a criminal investigation into the forgery of medical documents. The case will be turned over to the district attorney. Olivia stood up with a jump. "This is unfair. She manipulated me. I only wanted to protect her. The judge looked at her harshly. Dr. Sterling, I suggest you remain silent. Your own words condemned you. And just like that, in that cold courtroom, I recovered my life. Not only did I recover my house, I taught her the meaning of losing everything. The sentence fell like a hammer on Olivia's perfect life, and I was there to see how it crumbled piece by piece. First came her reputation. The case leaked to the media, not with all the details, but enough. Dr. Strip's sick mother of assets. The headlines were ruthless. Her colleagues at the medical center found out. The whispers began in the hallways. Patients started canceling appointments. Who wants to be treated by a doctor capable of doing that to her own mother? The hospital administration asked her to take some time off. Elegant euphemism, for we don't want your scandal here. The criminal investigation advanced quickly. The colleague whose signature she forged on the medical certificate pressed charges. The medical board opened a review process of her license. Olivia, the successful cardiologist, the respected professional, was collapsing. But what hurt her most was losing her family. Mark filed for divorce 2 weeks after the trial. He told me when he came to help me move back to my house, I can't continue with someone capable of this. The values I thought we shared never existed. And the kids? They are with me. Olivia can see them, but with supervision. They asked for it that way. The day I returned to my house was bittersweet. The property was intact, but it felt empty, cold, as if the months of abandonment had stolen its soul. Arthur, Chloe, Susan, and Martha helped me clean, air out, bring it back to life. Mark brought furniture Olivia had taken out. Leo and Harper came to help too. "Grandma, forgive us," Harper cried in my arms. "We believed her lies. We thought you—" "Shh, my baby, you are victims too." She fooled everyone. It was Leo who told me the worst part. Or maybe the best, depending on how you looked at it. Mom had to sell the condo in Miami. She needed money to pay your compensation, and her lawyers. She lost everything she invested. Poetic justice at its finest. The place she bought with my house money, the symbol of her betrayal, she had to sell to pay me. 1 month after the trial, Olivia tried to visit me. She arrived alone, unannounced, mid-afternoon. I saw her from the window. She looked destroyed, thin, hair unkempt, clothes wrinkled. She was no longer the polished and successful doctor. She rang the doorbell. I didn't open immediately. I let her wait. When I finally opened the door, she stood there, not knowing what to say. "Mom, what do you want, Olivia?" "Forgiveness. I need you to forgive me. I lost everything. My job, my marriage, my children hate me. I have nothing." Those words, the same ones I could have said months ago. "And you come looking for forgiveness because you need it? Not because you truly repent?" She cried. Real tears this time, without calculation behind them. I don't know what happened to me. The ambition, the money, wanting to give my children what I didn't have. I got lost on the way. You had everything, Olivia. A mother who killed herself working for you. An education that opened all doors. But it wasn't enough, I know. And now I lost it all. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw a broken woman. But I didn't feel the impulse to hug her, to comfort her, as I would have done before, because some wounds are too deep. Olivia, for months I asked myself what I did wrong, how I failed as a mother for you to come to this. But now I understand it wasn't my fault. I gave you unconditional love. You chose to turn it into a commercial transaction. Mom, please. I'm not going to deny you forgiveness, but I'm not going to forget either. You can go on with your life, rebuild what you destroyed. But don't expect me to be there to pick you up every time you fall. She took something out of her purse, a key. It's to the house, the last copy I had left. I took it. Do you know what is the saddest part of all this? That if you had asked me for help, if you had been honest with me about your money problems, I would have found a way to help you, because that's how mothers love, without conditions. I know, she whispered. That's why it hurts more. She turned to leave, but she stopped. The kids want to see you. Mark says it's okay. Tell them I expect them on Sunday. For dinner. I'm going to make pot roast. She nodded and left, walking slowly, hunched over, as if carrying the weight of the world. Did I feel pity? Yes. She was my daughter after all. Did I forgive her completely? No, because true forgiveness takes time. And some betrayals leave permanent scars. That night, sitting in my living room, with a cup of hot coffee in my hands, I looked around. My house, my home, recovered. Arthur died 2 weeks after the trial. His heart simply stopped while he slept. But he died happy, knowing he had helped win one last battle. Chloe kept visiting me. She was no longer my nurse, she was my friend. Susan came every week with sweet rolls and neighborhood gossip. Martha continued leaving little plates of food on my porch, even though I didn't need them anymore. I had lost months of my life. I had suffered betrayals I never imagined. But I had also found something I didn't know I had. Strength, dignity, the ability to get up when everything seemed lost. Olivia took my house for a while, but I took something from her she can never recover. Her peace, because now she will live the rest of her life knowing she destroyed the only person who loved her without asking for anything in return. And that is true poetic justice. At my 78 years, I learned that it is never too late to defend yourself, and it is never too early to reap what you sow. 6 months have passed since the trial. 6 months in which my life was rebuilt in ways I never imagined. My house filled with life again. Not in the way I expected, but in a more authentic, real way. Sundays became sacred. Leo and Harper come to eat. I teach them to bake pies from scratch. I tell them stories of when their mom was a little girl, the good stories, before ambition consumed her. "Grandma, why did Mom change so much?" Harper asked me one afternoon while we were rolling dough. "Sometimes, honey, success makes us forget where we come from. Your mom got lost on the way, but that doesn't mean she can't find herself again. Do you think she will? That depends on her. I already did my part." Mark also comes from time to time. He feels guilty for not seeing the signs, but I don't hold a grudge against him. "Mrs. Eleanor, if I had known." "Enough, son. The important thing is that you were there when it mattered. That is worth more than any apology." With the compensation Olivia paid, I could finally afford my full medical treatment. The medicines I really need, the regular checkups, a dignified life. I still work, but now by choice, not necessity. I sell my pies on weekends because I like it, because it's my tradition. The neighborhood folks say they are the best in the county. Martha and I became inseparable. We share coffee in the afternoons, we laugh at soap operas, we keep each other company in the silence. "Eleanor, you are the bravest woman I know." "I wasn't brave, Martha. I just stopped being afraid." And it's true. For years I lived with fear of bothering, of asking, of claiming what was mine. Fear that my daughter would stop loving me if I wasn't the perfect and sacrificing mother. But that fear almost killed me. Literally. Now I live differently, with my head held high, knowing that my value isn't in what I can give, but in who I am. Olivia is rebuilding her life. Slowly, she got a job at a smaller clinic with a much lower salary. The criminal process ended with probation and community service. She lost her license for 2 years. I see her from afar sometimes. We cross paths at the grocery store, on the street. We greet each other with a nod. Nothing more. Do I love her? Yes. She is my daughter. That doesn't change. Do I trust her? No. And perhaps I never will completely again. Do I need her? Not anymore. And that was the most liberating discovery of all. One day, 3 months after the trial, a letter arrived at my door. It was from Olivia, handwritten, not typed. Pages and pages of apologies, of recognition, of pain. "Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm not even sure I deserve it. But I need you to know that every day I carry what I did. Not because of the judge's sentence, but because of the sentence of my own conscience. I destroyed the most valuable thing I had for things that are worth nothing. The condo, the money, the prestige, everything is gone. But you are still there, and I am here, alone with my decisions. Maybe one day I can look you in the eyes without feeling this shame that eats me alive. Meanwhile, I just want you to be happy. Live in peace in the house that was always yours. Your daughter who learned the hardest lesson. I kept that letter in the drawer where I keep my treasures. I didn't throw it away, because forgiveness is a process, not an event. The rose bushes in my yard bloomed this month. Arthur told me once, "The trees that survive the strongest storms are the ones that bear the sweetest fruit." He was right. This story, my story, is not just about a recovered house or a daughter who betrayed. It is about finding strength when you thought you had none left. It is about knowing that your dignity doesn't depend on how much you give, but on how much you respect who you are. It is about understanding that true love never humiliates, never strips, never destroys. And it is about learning that sometimes the families we choose are stronger than families of blood. Today, at my 78 years, with my weak heart but my unbreakable spirit, I live every day as a gift. I tend my flowers, brew my coffee, greet my neighbors, hug my grandkids, and when I sit in my living room, in that recliner where I rocked baby Olivia, I no longer feel pain. I feel peace. Because true wealth isn't in what you possess, but in what you don't allow them to take from you. Your value, your dignity, your right to be treated with respect. Those things no one can steal from you unless you allow it. And I don't allow anything anymore. If this story touched something in your heart, if you ever felt you gave everything for someone who didn't value it, or if you know someone who is going through something similar, leave me a comment telling me your experience. I would love to know what part of the world you are listening from. And remember, it is never too late to defend what is yours. It is never too late to recover your dignity. It is never too late to bloom again. Like this video if you think Eleanor did the right thing, subscribe to the channel for more real stories that need to be told, and share this with someone who needs to hear that yes, you can get through this. Because sometimes, the best victories aren't the ones that come easy. They are the ones you build with your own trembling hands. Until the next story. And remember, your life is yours. Defend it. The end.